There we go. So hi, a big welcome to our Welcome to the Early Career Framework information event. This is for all ECTs, mentors, induction tutors, school leaders, everyone who's been involved with year one moving on to year two. I'm Zoe Thompson. I hoped to have met all of you before. I've met a lot of you along with Gemma as part of our appropriate body service this year. But just really briefly to inform you of the difference, tonight we are here to speak to you with an ECF lead hat on rather than appropriate body. Some of the things we'll share, we will equally share in our appropriate body webinars because they're important for both, and we do feel like you need to know that information too. But the ECF is the training programme that has supported ECTs in year one this year. It is not an assessment tool as the appropriate body service looks into and looks at teacher standards. It is purely for training and development over this year. So a huge welcome to all the ECTs on the call tonight, mentors, induction tutors, and anyone else within that school leadership team who are joining us to find out about the differences as we move into year two.
Okay, again, just to extend a hello to you all, Zoe has said obviously we've got a mixture of mentors, ECTs and induction leads with us tonight. We didn't want to do separate meetings because we feel it's important and vital really that we share clear and consistent messages with you all. And I suppose the next thing to say to you all is, after hello, is well done. Well done, you've almost completed your first year of induction under the new early career framework. And that's, well done to you all, mentors, induction leads and ECTs. Those changes from September 2021 have been vastly different to any previous induction processes. And tonight, what we're going to do, as Zoe said, is just focus on what they will look like as we move from year one into year two. We're going to review that online learning platform from Educational Development Trust, and we're going to review those expectations around that self-study for mentors and for ECTs. And we also want to give you some information about the processes around ECTs and mentors moving on. So whether that would be what you would do if you've got a year one who's leaving you, or you've got a year one moving into year two who's coming to you in September, and what that would look like. Okay, so just moving on, Zoe. Just a reminder really about how the ECF fits into that golden thread of continuous professional development and where we are with those ECTs. A reminder that early career support is based on the learning that's already taken place through that ITT year. It mirrors that ITT framework, and that the modules and the learning is repeated, and it's repeated for a very specific reason. The idea is obviously that the learning, the strategies and the concepts are mastered, and those kind of well-structured mental models are built for our ECTs and for our mentors moving forward in that mentor role. Another reminder that the framework, the early career framework, is a generic framework, and it's designed for ECTs to access no matter what provision or setting they're in. And for that reason, mentors are the key. You are the people who will ensure that the programme is working for you in your setting. So a plea from you today, just to really take on board anything and any actions that we're asking you to do moving forward. And that programme, remember, from EDT is underpinned by that framework, and that you are contextualising that, and it allows for that generic understanding to develop, but it also develops your ECT's application of the learning into their specific context. Moving on again, another reminder from me as well. I feel like all I'm going to do is say that I'm reminding you about things. Hopefully I am reminding you about things, and this is nothing new to anyone. We're moving into year two. That's what the changes look like and how they've been different from September 2021 as opposed to previous induction processes. Yes, we've got that generic framework and it underpins that learning, but it's not the early career framework that the ECTs are assessed against. It's still those teacher standards, and those should, remember, be fed into those termly reports and checks that you should be submitting to your AB. And I suppose the biggest change that we want to talk about tonight as we move from year 1 to year 2 is that, yes, those ECTs will still receive time out of class in addition to their PPA, but that won't be 10% in year 2, that will be 5%. And we'll really want to sort of focus on how that looks and moving forward with mentor meetings and access to self-study. You're all here because, so if you just want to click the next slide, because you have chosen to access a fully funded programme through Northern Lights as a teaching school hub and as a delivery partner for that lead provider. And our lead provider, as you hoping you know, is Educational Development Trust. And you should all be accessing, certainly your mentors and your ECTs should be accessing that portal on a weekly basis and accessing that self-study and ensuring that you are following that programme, which is underpinned by that early career framework. Zoe's going to just remind you of what that portal looks like and what you should be doing with it. And she's also going to now move on to just focus on those key things and actions that you will have to do moving from year 1 to year 2, specifically with any changes linked to mentor roles, any changes linked to ECT, and our beloved DFE portal and any actions that you might have to do on there.
Thanks, Gemma. So as we say, it's the same portal as in the DFE portal, but there's been lots of changes, and I think this is important for you to know as part of our ECF programme, and I'm sure as appropriate body will give you this information, or your appropriate body will do the same. There's different starting points, and this is really key. So everyone here has got an ECT this year. They will become ECT2s from September. Okay, so you've got an ECT1 currently, but after July, when they be coming to you in September, they become ECT2s. So if that's how your school is going to run next year, and you will only have that ECT2, the top line is what you will see. If you've got an ECT1 this year, but they are leaving you in July or in August, then you will have no ECTs. Pretty straightforward. Some of you on the call may have your ECT1s who are going to become ECT2s and also are going to be employing another new ECT for their induction for September. And therefore you will have an ECT1 and an ECT2. Okay? Now, the changes here onto this portal have been emailed to you, hopefully by the DFE, with a link. Now, we'll pop this link into the chat, and this link takes you to the Manage Early Career Teachers page on the gov.uk website. Gemma, if you could find that and pop it in the chat, that would be brilliant. This page on the Gov website allows you to access your account as an induction tutor. Now, if you are a new induction tutor and you've taken over the role throughout the year, just make sure that that induction tutor that was nominated originally has changed over the details to you. A change for the better means that as induction tutor, you can access this page anywhere you are from your own email address, from your own link that you are sent through the website, and you can add all of the information for your ECTs and mentors yourself. So ECTs don't have to do all of this themselves this time round. The key is that you are nominated as an induction tutor and that you have your ECT 1s and 2s in the right places on this site. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what that will look like. So if you are registered with us already, which you all are, and you did get a new ECT this year, then you would go onto that service and you would add a new ECT, and they will be an ECT1. You will be selecting the 2022 cohort because they are beginning their induction brand new to the system this year. You do not need to onboard any new ECTs with EDT. So that means you don't have to go onto Education Development Trust website like you did last year, and you don't have to fill in a registration form for a new ECT because your school is already registered. The information will filter through from that portal to EDT and then to us at Northern Lights. However, what you do need to do, and this is everyone on the call, if you are an induction tutor and you have your ECT2, who you've been supporting this year, you have to go on and reconfirm that route So please, everyone, go onto that link and reconfirm that you are staying with your current provider, which is Northern Lights and EDT. You are continuing a DFE provider-led route next year, and you reconfirm that. You may see the difference between what was called the FIP, the Full Induction Programme, is now being renamed the DFE provider-led route, but that is the same thing, and that's what that means. What is new is that you may find yourself in school, whether it's this year, whether it's September, whether it's January, April, or the following year, that you receive an ECT who has begun their induction with another school, with another provider, and they are now joining your school and your ECT programme within your school. When that happens, and they've started that somewhere else, you actually now manage that transfer yourself. So you log on to the exact same portal and you would click the cohort that they began their induction in. So you want to add a new school who is ECT who is transferring schools. And the important bit is this cohort part, where you would select which cohort they started their training in. So whether that was last year, it would be 2021. If it's in April and they started and they've done 2 terms in 2022, it would be 2022, and just make that really key. It will ask you whether they are continuing to stay with their current provider, which could be one of the other 7, or whether they are going to be moved to EDT, the provider your school uses, and that's entirely up to you and what your school can manage. If you decide to move them over, so all of your ECTs are working with the EDT curriculum for ECF, and we will support you in how that works, and you will be assured that they can kind of fill in the gaps if there's anything they've missed between what they've done previous and what they're doing now. Okay, so just a bit of an overview, and we will give you these slides so you've got a copy of the kind of position and the actions. Reconfirm all of your routes with the same provider if you're on the call now and you're sticking with your ECT2 in September. Let us know if any ECTs have left you this year so that we can amend if we're your appropriate body, but also as your ECF provider, because we will have to let EDT know. If you get any new ECTs, then add them to your system, register any new ECTs on the portal, and then anyone who started last year, you manage that training and indicate where they've started their induction and what they're going to continue with. Okay. Any mentors that are changing, if you're going into year 2 and it's not the same mentor, then don't worry. They will have missed, so for your ECT2s, they will have missed this year's worth of training. But we are aware that, yes, that's difficult, but we can support you through it. And what EDT have said is that there is no expectation that they have to then catch up on all of that training from year 1, because we know that that's not manageable and it wouldn't be effective. What they will be doing is creating some additional webinars that replacement mentors will be able to access and watch, and that will just support them through their training and get them to where they need to be to support your ECTs in their 2nd year. We would suggest try and keep your mentors the same. So if that's possible, if your mentors can continue to support that ECT1 into ECT2 year, then fantastic. But if that's not always possible, if that mentor's moving school, moving role within your school, then there is a way of a solution of supporting them as a mentor.
Just to add as well, if that mentor changes mid-year for whatever reason, that should also be managed on the portal as well, whether that's a maternity leave, they've left the school, just so the new mentor can have access to the materials as soon as possible, and that transition is really smooth.
Absolutely, and that's the purpose of a new portal, that everything's managed under one place. When you make changes on that portal, that will filter down, but please let us know as your ECF delivery partner if anything changes throughout the year, so that we know who we are communicating with, who we are tracking for engagement, and we will also let EDT know of any changes through what we have to do in the background for them. So just let us know and manage that on the online portal. Gemma's going to now move on to looking at how it will look in year 2 and the difference between year 2 and year 1 for both ECTs and mentors.
Thanks, Zoe. Yeah, just again, obviously there's lots to think about as we move and as you recruit new ECTs or ECTs move from year 1 to year 2. As Zoe has given that overview there, we will send the slides out, so you've got that overview just for reference, and if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. If you've got any questions right now, please pop them in the chat, or you can wait to the end where we'll kind of open the floor up, if you will, to answering any of those questions. What I've got on screen now for you is just a visual reminder. You hopefully will have all seen this previously, of that training programme for ECTs. I'll move on to mentors in a second. Just noticing the difference between the year 1 and the year 2 training. So we've got, you'll notice that there's a regional training session in year 2 within the first term, and those local groups are then again in the spring and in the summer term. Those are underpinned by that self-study being accessed through the portal and supported by those mentor meetings. Notice that, yes, there's a reduction in the ECT's time, that 5%, and those mentor meetings will now take place fortnightly. Of course, if you have capacity in your school for those to continue to happen on a weekly basis, that is absolutely brilliant. If you don't, however, there is only the requirement that they meet with their ECT on a fortnightly basis, and we're looking at making sure that as ECTs you are becoming sort of more independent in that self-directed study that you're taking part in, and that you're actioning those things moving forward from when you've when you're completing your induction years. For mentors, just moving on to the next slide, Zoe, again, that visual representation, so we can, yeah, thank you, of what that training looks like for mentors in year 2. What you'll notice is that you won't actually get any additional training outside of that weekly directed study until the end of the year in that term 3, where you'll have a local group session. You will continue to have those webinars and that reading and reflection. Obviously, that is a reduction this year moving into year 2, because you are only required to meet with your ECT on that fortnightly basis. Just remembering that obviously those blocks in learning go from 1 to 12. I think they're on the next slide, Zoe. And what you'll notice is that those build on the foundations encountered in that year 1, developing that mastery approach and building on those foundations that have already been covered in that ITT year. So you'll notice where we're looking in block 1 in year 1 about establishing that positive climate for learning. In year 2, it's about embedding that positive culture for learning. How we look at that metacognition in block 2, but in block 8, it's about really understanding and making that stick deep in ECTs and mentors understanding. What we will say again, and what I want to highlight again, is that mentors are key in ensuring that those blocks are covered with that learn, practice and reflect approach. Remember, it is personal and professional development, not only for your ECT, but for yourself as a mentor. So please make sure that you are accessing that self-directed study, you are accessing that prior to your mentor meeting, your ECT, your meeting with your ECT, if you like, and that you've got a good understanding of the things that you're going to cover. Obviously, that time commitment will be reduced because you're only meeting them fortnightly, but it is imperative that you take that generic framework, take that generic learning and contextualize it and pose those questions to your ECT about what that would look like in your current provision, whether you're in an alternative provision, a specialist provision, whether you're in early years, primary and secondary, because we all know that behaviour management strategies look very different, for example, across those contexts. So what we've learned from our AB meetings and what we've learned from delivering the programme is that best practice tells us that mentors are well prepared, that they access self-study prior to meeting with their ECT, that they think about questions that they're going to ask, that they have their dashboard open along with their ECT's dashboard, and they're accessing that learning together. We really can't highlight enough the fact that engagement from ECTs is essential, but so is engagement from mentors. And we really want to push that forward, making sure that that is really embedded in year 2 as well as year 1.
Thank you, Gemma.
Zoe, I'm just going to hand it back over to you just to
Thank you.
go a bit further through the platform information.
Yeah, of course. Oh, sorry, this is it's jumping ahead when I don't want it to, and it's sticking when Gemma wants it to go faster, so I do apologise. So yes, the platform links really well with what Gemma's just been talking about there. So when we say both laptops open, that's how we see engagement between ECTs and mentors, because both ECTs and mentors have access to the platform. You've done a year of this now, so you will be well aware of how that platform looks and how an ECT's platform looks different to the dashboard of a mentor's. A mentor gets that visual of both, so gets access to all those ECT materials. So a bit of a top tip, if anything ever happens to that ECT's dashboard where they haven't got the right blocks on, something's missing, or they can't see what they should be, or they've lost their password to get in, and they're worried about falling behind with engagement, then what we would suggest is that a mentor has access to that. And it could be that a mentor uses their login to access that dashboard, gets the right block up, and so that ECT can continue with their self-study. So into year 2, ECTs will continue with their weekly self-study, as we've said, and mentors absolutely accessing all of that pre-reading, that 3 hours across the year, split up probably maybe 15-20 minutes before each weekly meeting. Just a reminder, at the beginning of every block, you will get given some really great research which gives a good overview of what that block will engage in and what your ECT will be learning about. It will equally give you some really good coaching suggestions and tips. When you then meet with your ECT, as Gemma said, we found that kind of best practice held in those mentors who have the materials from EDT, so kind of print them off or have them on their laptop, where it shows you the activities, it gives you suggestions of what to do, and then adapt and contextualize it to meet the needs of your ECT, your school, the pupils, the young people that are being taught, and then it gives opportunity to model and allow ECTs to also say, well, actually, this would work for me, or shall we try out this? Now, there are opportunities through the EDT programme to do drop-ins, and we found that when mentors really plan in those drop-ins of their ECT, they are really effective in development. So a mentor can plan in maybe a 10-minute drop-in every week within that hour session at a different time to come and see an action that they've maybe discussed within their meeting, and then give some feedback the next time they meet. Suggest a next step based around the learning that the ECT and the mentor are looking at together, and then give suggestions of, actually, this would be fantastic in English next week. Why don't you try? And then ECTs give that a go and again have some drop-ins happen. Another great opportunity we found this year is where mentors make arrangements for ECTs to go and observe other members of staff. We know how valuable this is. We know it's really difficult sometimes to plan and to manage, but maybe once a half term for that to be in place would be really supportive for ECTs and invaluable to gain some really great expertise of other teaching staff and what they're doing in there.
So can I just jump in there? And of course, we understand that life in school is not perfect and nothing ever runs smoothly. And there is flexibility within the programme to focus on something a little bit longer than is suggested, or maybe have those conversations about other things that are happening in school. We know that is what real life school life is like. So if you've got a parents' evening, yes, of course you can discuss that with your mentor. If you've got assessment coming up, of course that can take up part of your meeting, and we want to allow for that flexibility in school's own induction. But remember, this early career framework is statutory. It does underpin that programme, and you are statutorily meeting that requirement by following this programme and showing fidelity to this programme as much as you possibly can.
Thank you. Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I know on the EDT dashboard, you get given a notes section. So when you meet with your ECTs and you sit together, you can put in some notes around that session, put in some actions for a drop-in or actions for next week. But if you need any other support with that and kind of keeping that track of evidence, what we're going to be doing as appropriate body is offering our ECTs with a meeting record sheet where mentors and ECTs just make note of what's really focused on to really show that engagement with their ECF programme. Equally putting on there support towards school-based induction and that flexibility. So if you do feel that you would like that as a structure for your meetings, then please just pop me an email and request that, and we'll share that with you if you're not with us for appropriate body. Just moving on a little bit, just in case you didn't know, but there's a section on the dashboard called Explore, and you may have not managed to get around to that this year, but it might be something you want to look at in year 2. And on there are some fantastic podcasts. There are some blogs which are really interesting. If you're secondary on the call and you are in a specific subject or have a specific specialism, there's some good information about the associations available around your specialisms. And equally, there are event and session recordings on there. So for instance, if you were at your regional session with us and you'd selected a different webinar, but you really wanted to key into that, making the programme work for early years, which I know is a topic of conversation with a lot of schools who are accessing the ECF this year. It's a 20-minute webinar, 20-minute session that you could watch, and that may support you in adapting and contextualizing the programme for early years. I picked another one off there. There's lots, but there was one around coaching sessions and where coaching sessions may be difficult. I thought this was perfect for mentoring, and if you want to really kind of upskill in how to approach those difficult sessions. There's also wellbeing support and lots of other things. So please take a look at it. It's in the Explore section on the dashboard. The next thing I just want to share with you is, as Gemma mentioned, ECTs have their regional session in term 1 of year 2. This is planned for Thursday, the 22nd of September. It will be a 9 AM start with an 8:30 AM registration. It will be face-to-face. Fingers crossed, nothing stands in our way, because you all know how we felt about our regional session in January, and it will end at 4 PM. The venue will be confirmed very, very soon, and that will appear on your dashboard. So please go on to there and mark that you're attending, add any dietary requirements that you have, and this is just for ECTs. So there's been lots of information. We've reminded you of some of the key elements of the ECF. We've given you some good tips for going into year 2 and some, oh, it's just done it again, not touched it, and some key information about the changes. Just some reminders from us is to, as you're working on timetables for next year, ensure that they reflect that reduction. And as Gemma said, any capacity for mentors to continue to meet weekly, then brilliant, but it's not an expectation. Complete your final observations this term and ensure that that end of year 1 assessment is based on the teacher's standards and not this programme. And then that needs to be sent to your appropriate body in whichever way they ask for that. Reconfirm that DFE provider-led route on the portal and change anything that needs to be changed on there before September. And just to really familiarise yourself and ensure that you are using that EDT dashboard if you're a mentor or an ECT. And if you are a mentor, if you're listening tonight and think, oh, I need a little bit further support in how to contextualise, how to adapt, I don't think I'm using those meetings effectively enough, then this is what we're here for, and we'll support you through that. So go to your leaders within school, but equally drop us an email if you'd like us to help you with that adaptation of the programme. I would like to personally say a huge thank you for all of your support with the ECF this year. A huge well done, as Gemma mentioned, for getting to this stage and completing a year. We know there's been challenges, and we know there'll be some great changes moving into year 2. But we as an ECF delivery partner want to support you the best way we can and ensure that everyone's engaging in the programme the way we all should be. So I'm going to stop the recording, and if anyone has any questions, then please let me just find how to do that. There we go.